Israel has a very rich history of lying. You're talking about a country that was based on lies, people faking their identities, creating a pseudo-history, a pseudo-narrative, and denying the truth. And when it comes to assassinations, they've had many false claims previously when it comes to Hamas in particular. Now, they've had indeed confirmed assassinations previously, including the main spiritual leader of Hamas, the late martyr Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, and many important figures in Hamas. Very recently, of course, they had the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. However, when it comes to certain figures in Hamas, Israel claimed multiple times that they assassinated them. And then Israel admitted that it wasn't true. One example is Yahya al-Dayf, Muhammad al-Dayf, excuse me. Muhammad al-Dayf is the main military commander of Izz al-Din al-Qassam brigades. Israel said that they killed him at least 5 times. They've had over 7 assassination attempts. We've had definite confirmations from them. He was killed. We assassinated him. Only for him to pop up at a later stage, sometimes months later or years later. And then Israel would say, oh, we rushed into it, establishing the fact that he was assassinated. And now we're more sure if they would declare that they assassinated him. And they've declared that they assassinated him now in this battle of Al-Aqsa flood. Again, no confirmation from Hamas that Muhammad al-Dayf was assassinated. As a matter of fact, some of them later on said he is fine, alive and well. Then we go to Yahya Sinwar. Well, they said that they killed Yahya Sinwar several months back. Don't we remember that? Okay. They said they killed Yahya Sinwar. 2 weeks ago, they started publishing reports that no, it wasn't Yahya Sinwar, because Yahya Sinwar now, we have a confirmation that he's sending messages to Hamas members abroad, some of the political bureau leaders of Hamas, some of the political figures in Hamas abroad, meaning he's not dead. Okay. What's different this time? Well, what's different this time is that we have images, we have footage. We're not going to share them here, too harsh, of a body, someone looking like Yahya Sinwar. Israel is claiming that they had certain checks to do with like teeth, DNA testing, and they're confirming that it was him. However, we don't have a confirmation from Hamas yet. So anything that Israel says is invalid until Hamas says so. Why? Because firstly, Israel, you're talking about a hyper-pathological lying entity. That doesn't mean they can say truthful things. Sometimes they can. That doesn't mean they don't have the capability to assassinate. Yahya Sinwar, they do. They've reached Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. And by the way, when it comes to the figure of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah himself, you're talking about a figure that is very important when it comes to Hezbollah and when it comes to the global support for the resistance supporters and the people seeking liberty and freedom. And they confirmed, Hezbollah, that he was assassinated. However, they had failed assassination attempts in Lebanon, and although they said they killed other figures, they did not. We had a confirmation that they did not kill them. So long as we don't have a confirmation from Hamas that Yahya Sinwar was killed, we cannot assume that he was indeed killed. Again, because the movement needs to confirm, and we cannot trust the genocide entity. We cannot trust these hyper-pathological liars. Secondly, let's assume he was killed. Let's assume the narration of Israel is true and Yahya Sinwar was assassinated. Well, firstly, is there a more heroic and noble death than a death of a leader in the front lines fighting the most depraved enemy on earth? That's a question. then would his assassination change anything when it comes to the equation of resistance against Israel? Well, the history says no. What does the history say? The history says the resistance will increase and become more intense, and you will have more people, and you will get more leaders of the resistance more keen on getting rid of this genocidal entity that poses a stamp of shame and horror on humanity. So they've assassinated senior figures before. Nothing changed, when it comes to the resistance. They've improved. They got stronger. They got more support. They got cleverer. They got more intense. They got more weapons. And they escalated their resistance to this criminal child murdering entity. Then we have questions. What are the questions? Firstly, if they, again, assuming the situation is true, and for anyone joining us as and when, we're still saying that it's a claim from Israel, Hamas hasn't confirmed yet, so it should be taken with a pinch of salt. Now, let's say Israel published this. Firstly, you have capabilities to false information, fake information, even fake bodies and faces. We all know that this technology exists, capabilities exist. But would it be something that Yahya Sinwar, the political bureau leader of Hamas, necessarily be doing? Fighting Israel over the ground? Does Hamas need that? Technically, they don't. And also, when you are the political bureau leader, you don't have to engage in such activities. You have duties to lead, you have duties to manage, you have duties to communicate internally and externally, and you have many responsibilities, not necessarily to go out and fight, because there's more than enough people willing to fight and waiting for their turn to fight. Confirmed by Israel. Israel the other day claimed that the Hamas forces in Gaza, that's troops from the ground, say that Hamas have the same capacity in terms of, firstly, they had a report before that saying Hamas has the same levels of fighters as before. Then that report said that soldiers on the ground say that Hamas are fighting them with the same intensity and same keenness and same bravery as they did on day one. What does that tell you? Well, that says that even if you will assassinate Sinwar, they still have that capacity. And if Hezbollah in Lebanon have so much capacity to continue and intensify after the assassination of their Secretary General, who has been a Secretary General for over 30 years. Yahya Sinwar has been leading Hamas for much less than that. Then what would that change? That would change nothing. Another question. Why did Israel report or make this claim now? Well, we have a storm. We have a global storm against these criminals. Italy is banning arms exports, increasing feud with France. And you have to talk about traditional allies that are, many of them have leaders who are despicable, by the way. And it says a lot when you have leaders who generally take hideous stances when it comes to their own population and global matters, taking such a stance with Israel. It shows you how evil and ugly Israel is. If disgusting leaders start to take these positions against Israel, that means they're super ugly and disgusting, right? And they can live in as much denial as they want. It's not going to change anything. So they again want to come up with this report to say what? That look, our killing, mass killing and mass destruction is bringing results. Therefore imply what? That our genocide and mass murder is justified. All of this destruction led to the assassination of Yahya Sinwar. Meaning, this is the message that Israel wants to convey to the world. We have a right to do what we do. Why? Because look, okay, we killed 50,000 people. We were committing a genocide and infanticide, mass destruction, hospitals, universities, schools, killing people in shelters and tents, burning them to death, raping women, kidnapping children. But, we reach Sinwar eventually. So they want to send a message to the world that all means are justified in this war. And Netanyahu has the audacity now to send a message to the people in Gaza, saying to the people of Gaza, to the people of the region, you need to know that this is good for you, and you need to be on the side of the blessing and not the curse. He has the audacity to send a message to the people of Gaza. I mean, did he give them something that would be considered positive at any point? He's starving the people in the north to death. All right. So they're trying to portray it as an image of victory. This is another thing here. Why they do these things and why they continuously focus on targeting certain figures, assuming again that it's true. We haven't had a confirmation from Hamas yet. Why? Because they are a death cult. They thrive on these death trophies. They like having death trophies to show their people as if this is a trophy of success. Why? To cover up their military failure and humiliation. That's why they cause a genocide against the people, mass destruction. And then when and if they reach a certain top figure in the resistance, they will show it as, look, here's a trophy for you. My bloodthirsty supporters, look. Did it stop anything? That is the question. Again, we were going to have the same questions like we had after the assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. Will it change anything in the equation of fighting Israel? It will not. Are the people, or will the people, who lost all of their loved ones, who lost their husbands, wives, children, whole families wiped off, will all of these people who suffered so much in Gaza be affected to that level if Yahya Sinwar was assassinated? In many cases, no. Some people, if they like him very much, they might feel like really hurt or whatever. But when you've lost your children, when you've lost your wife, your sister, your brother, when you've witnessed all of this horror, your children burning in front of you, I mean, what else is there? Yahya Sinwar dying? That's not going to make a massive change, is it? Plus, they know that the same people who would, if they did, assassinate Yahya Sinwar, well, they're the same people who assassinated my family members. So are they going to tell me that I am safer now after they caused all of destruction against me and my people if the leader of the movement resisting them the most in Palestine has been killed? Are they going to really think that? Of course not. They're not going to think that. They are going to still view Israel in the same way that they viewed Israel all of their life. A terrorist occupying apartheid supremacist state supported by the genocide cartel. The genocide cartel, some in the Western establishment, some in the Arab world as well. Don't underestimate the evil that the Arab world has. And some people in Palestine, what are we talking about? Do you think like all Palestinians are like, no. Some people the Zionist bootlicking side would be happy, like they were happy when Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah was assassinated. Why? Because to them, Israel is killing the people who compete with them. So let's not underestimate anything here. This situation is bigger than Palestine. It's bigger than the Palestinian people as well. However, it was written for them, and it was the destiny of the Palestinian people to be at the forefront of this project of supremacy and neo-colonialism in Palestine. What is going to happen after this? And I'll open the space up for any questions, by the way, and comments in a second. What is going to happen after this? Okay, firstly, we need a confirmation from Hamas. So long as Hamas does not have a confirmation, we cannot believe that Israel actually killed Yahya Sinwar, even if they have image and footage of his body. Why? Because Hamas are truthful and Israel lies more than it breathes. Israelis are hyper pathological liars. They've established their existence on lies. They still do on lies. They live and thrive on manipulation, propaganda, and hiding the truth. So they're not a state that can be trusted when it comes to giving certain information. And we have a history of their lies. Their lies have been exposed to the whole world. On the other hand, we have a history of truthfulness coming from sides like Hamas and from Hezbollah and the people opposing Israel. History, records of truth and honesty when it comes from these people. So we need to wait and see what Hamas says. What will this change when it comes to the equation? So we spoke about why Israel now claimed this and published this report to show the whole world that's arming up against them. Listen, not just France, not just Italy, not just other countries. Joseph Borrell from the United Nations, do you know what he said? He said Israel is waging a multi-front war on the UN. Do you know what that means? That's borderline legitimizing a war against them. Right? Israel is waging a war on the United Nations. So what's next if Israel is waging a war on the United Nations? That means that war on this entity is justified. And again, that's something that it's like, what are you waiting for? Western countries, what are you waiting for? Right? You've always told us that you are the beacons of democracy and human rights, and all of a sudden you freeze when it comes to Israel. Why is that? There should have been military action taken to take down this genocidal regime in Israel from a long time ago, before the 7th of October. But now you have more reasons to take action against them. Don't forget, you're talking about countries that created fake stuff, made stuff up, false flags as well, to have military intervention in countries. Yet when there's something true, when there's something genuine, they freeze. Again, Palestine was always the moral compass of your true intentions and positions when it comes to the international scene politically. And now, everyone is freezing. So the resistance will not be effective. Again, Israel said that in a way, and at a time where it was receiving more and more scrutiny. And of course, this comes up to cover up, again, their genocide against the people, to show as if it's justified. Burning children in tents, justified. 17,000 children, justified. Thousands of infants under the age of 1, murdering them, slaughtering them, justified. All of that is justified because we want to kill Yahya Sinwar. This is the message it's trying to say. What will happen to the resistance? The resistance is going to continue getting stronger. It's not going to take one step back. Why? Because the people who put themselves in a position at the forefront to fight this child murdering entity always knew they are at the risk of dying. As a matter of fact, Yahya Sinwar himself said, I wish I would be martyred. I'd rather be martyred by an F-16 than die from COVID during COVID times, or die on my bed. So these people know that they're putting their lives at risk. And when they do lose their life fighting or leading the resistance against Israel, that's a badge of honor for them. So it doesn't really matter. And all of the people resisting Israel, most of them are people of faith, people of honor, people with values, who put themselves at the forefront. Unlike who? Unlike their enemies. Unlike Netanyahu, like his son, getting protection in the United States, instead of coming and serving in Israel when they are in urgent need for people to go and die as cannon fodder for this genocidal death cult. His son is in the United States. What is he doing there? So the resistance will continue. It will get stronger. If the death of Sinwar has been confirmed, that will not change anything. It will probably make things even worse. Why? Because if you don't have any, firstly, you assassinated Haniya, the only person who, or one of the people who you could have an agreement with, after Hamas accepted the ceasefire. That was proposed by the United States, and that was in accordance to a UN resolution. Netanyahu refused. You went and killed him. So you killed the negotiator and the man who you could have had peace with. Okay. Sinwar wasn't really talking with Israel because he knew what was happening, but he was leading the movement. Now, is there anyone to talk to at all? Do you understand? What does that show? That shows that these people don't want to talk. They don't want to talk. They don't want to reach a solution. And they're backed by that fully by the mother of all genocide regimes in the whole world, the United States administration. They're justifying Israel's assassinations. Talking, we need to get aid to Gaza and we have 30 days and all garbage, all theater, because they're supporting them with what they need. The missiles and everything that they need. So it will continue whether they assassinated Yahya Sinwar or not. And we are looking at a further escalation. Why further escalation? Because so far, we have only seen a pattern of increase. We haven't seen any patterns of de-escalation. The only things we've seen so far are a continuation of the resistance against Israel, Israel increasing its assassinations, and whenever we have any sort of potential to reach a ceasefire, we would have Israel coming and making things worse. Making things worse how? By, assassinating people, by Netanyahu throwing sticks in wheels when it comes to the negotiations so that they do not have any deal. And that's fully backed by the United States. So everyone can really say goodbye to any potential of a ceasefire now. Whether it leads to an escalation that will be regional or an escalation that would be global. And the people who supported and legitimized Israel, they have no one to blame but themselves, because they enabled this monster. They are feeding still this monster. And this monster will end up consuming them if they continue feeding it and supporting it. Now is the time everyone in the world, all governmental level, politically, people, everyone completely ditches Israel for good, boycotting the state, completely cutting every ties, withdrawing any legitimacy. You need to strip Israel of any legitimacy as an entity. They don't have a right to exist as they are and as they have been, and take military action to take them down. So long as you don't do that, you are enabling a state of mass terror and genocide that will reach everywhere it wants across the world.